Welcome to Disciples. We're on a journey to become all that Christ wants for us. You know, last time that we met, we talked about this idea of the discipleship theater. And we talked about how there are different areas that every church has at its disposal to help mature and grow people. In the top part, we see the worshipers, and worship is an important part for us. But proclamation of the gospel and of truth, as a pastor or church leader preaches, that really helps us. But we also talked about that there's a front stage. It's the organized and visible ways we do discipleship, small groups, anything that lands on the website. And we participate there, but some of us also lead in those kind of sections. We may not preach, but many folks, more folks in the church, have an opportunity to lead and guide the youth group or some of the small groups. But we also said that there's a backstage, and those are the invisible and organic ways that we disciple others. And in the backstage, I do believe that it's life to life. And what that does is it gives a lot more people an opportunity to be able to help others to participate. You don't have to be a rock star to listen to someone, to love on them, to help them with truth, and to guide them and encourage them along the way. So all of us can be a part of this. And what we learn is that discipleship comes in a lot of different forms. And there's a lot of aspects that we have as a church at our disposal. You might be thinking like, well, how did Jesus practice this kind of thing? And one of the great passages that I think highlights kind of all the things that Jesus was doing as he was discipling and leading people. And in Mark chapter 3, there's a beautiful little chapter, and it has a huge contrast in it. And in verse 7 of Mark chapter 3, it says, these crowds were following him, and from Galilee and Judea, and he was healing people and casting out demons. And so this great crowd just came and wanted to be near Jesus for help with their deepest needs. And yet, here's the very interesting thing, and here's the contrast. In verse 3, it says that he went up on a mountain and called to him those whom he desired, and they came to him. And this is when he called the apostles. And he appointed 12, whom he also named apostles. So that, here's his purpose in calling these few people, that they might be with him, and that he might send them out to preach and to have authority to cast out demons. Now, those are big things that Jesus wanted to do. But as you see, he had a ministry to the crowd, and in some ways that's our worship services. It's a large crowd, but Jesus very intentionally got small and got more intimate with a few, and was calling others to be a part of his big mission to bring the kingdom here on earth. I think of that threefold purpose, that they would be with him, that they would preach, and that they would cast out demons. And again, those seem like crazy big things for each of us. Well, gosh, I'm not really a preacher. But consider this, that preaching is really helping others hear truth. And you and I, in small ways, can help others understand biblical truth, spiritual truth, things that will help them. Now, on the casting out demons, these people had serious problems deep in their heart. They were bound. And the deepest need that they had at that moment was to be healed and freed from these demons. Um, but I do think the correlation for us today is that we want to help people in the deepest areas of their life. That we want uh, them to be freed and whole and not bound by things that shackle them. Uh, so that threefold purpose is this deep relationship. It was about relationship that Jesus wanted with his apostles. And he did have purpose that they'd teach and that they'd help others in their deepest needs. Um, this whole idea of relationship, I do think is a lot about this word. And it's a word that we know, but I also think we miss a lot in this as we define what love is. For many, it's, you listen to music or TV shows and it's this ushy gushy feeling, or it's all about the physical part of love. But I think biblical love is much more like this. And here's this first part of the phrase. It's an unconditional acceptance of people. You and I, God has shown unconditional acceptance of you and me. He doesn't ask us to have ourselves all cleaned up before we come to him. He accepts us where we're at and loves us and even died for us while we were still sinners, as Romans 5:8 says. This unconditional acceptance is something that you and I need to also be a part of when we're loving people, allowing them to have warts and scars and wounds and things that aren't all okay. However, if we end there, we would never really help people with the deepest needs and free them, because part of love is seeking another's highest good. You see, if I care for people, I really want to help them with the problems that shackle them. If they're struggling with a relationship with their parents or a relationship with their spouse, gosh, don't you want to immediately want to say, gosh, I love you, but man, how can I help? How can I help? If we're going to live out this purpose that Jesus has for us, that we be with him, and I would say be with others too, and help others with truth and help them with the deepest needs, you and I are going to need to have a full range view of what love is. Now, let me tell you a story. So when my wife and I were dating before we were married, we were really enjoying getting to know each other. We shared a lot of things in common. We loved to garden. We loved to cook. We also were heavily involved in youth ministry together. And that's actually how we met. And we kept enjoying and getting to know each other better and better. But at one point in time, I began sensing that there was that my wife Helen was holding back. That there was something. It was like, gosh, like she was not sharing more and more deeply. We kind of got to an impasse. Now, from my perspective, it felt like she was holding back, but from her perspective, she was probably thinking, is this person trustworthy? Is Dane, is he trustworthy? You see, love, and as we love people, and as we go closer and we're with people, love is the binding force in that relationship. And love also includes transparency and vulnerability, but also trust. And if we are going to help people spiritually to be disciples, if we're going to be disciples ourselves, we have to learn how to love people well, how to be with them, how to allow them to be transparent and vulnerable, how we can be transparent and vulnerable. When the disciples finished up their ministry, one of the very interesting things with Jesus, and after Jesus was gone, there's this beautiful statement of the result of this being with Jesus. It's actually a very interesting little anecdotal statement in the middle of a story. Acts chapter 4 is the apostles had been out preaching and teaching, and the religious folks didn't like that. The Pharisees did not like that. And in the middle of this, of the Pharisees scolding John and Peter, there's this verse 13, and it says, when they saw the boldness of Peter and John and perceived that they were uneducated common men, they were astonished. Okay, this ought to give us great hope that even the apostles were considered uneducated and unskilled. You and I can have impact. We don't have to have a theological degree to help somebody else move ahead spiritually or to help yourself move ahead spiritually. You know, they were uneducated common men, and they were astonished. And they recognized that they had been with Jesus. You see, this intimate relationship with Jesus really was so transformative and shocking to others. The Pharisees, they were shocked. Wow, there's something different about these people. You see, as you and I connect deeply with the Lord and get to know him and have this relationship of love and transparency and vulnerability and trust, that strengthens us and allows us to do our horizontal relationships with each other. How do we love those that are to my right and to my left and around me? How do I help somebody move ahead spiritually? Well, a big part of the vehicle that transforms people, just like it transformed the apostles, is going to be the depth of our relationships with others. Great to be with you today.